Yes, so now we can start. And good evening, everyone. And let me share my screen and then we can move to the agenda. So I guess this PowerPoint is visible.
Yes,
Ma'am,
sir.
please confirm. Yes,
Yeah.
great. So let's start from this point only. So yesterday we started with the financial management practices, how accounting is done, and how different aspects of finances are managed in the startup, especially by the entrepreneurs. So today, what we are going to talk about is that today we will be focusing more on the managerial accounting side or management accounting side, and here our focus will be to talk about that how costing is done, how people do forecasting. This is something which was requested by all of you, and then how the break-even analysis is done, right? So that you can understand that what level of production is required in order to meet your all expenses, so that you are in a no profit, no loss situation. So on that note, let us do one thing. This is something where we stopped yesterday, and this is something which we discussed that financial whatever decisions are taken in financial management, the recording of those decisions is done in financial accounting. And we yesterday we discussed that accounting is generally divided into two aspects. One is financial accounting, another is managerial accounting or management accounting. And today our focus will be more on that what is management accounting, how to take forward, and how decisions are taken and all. And in general, although there is some difference that lies between management accounting and cost accounting, but at the initial level, you can assume that whenever we are going to talk about management accounting, our focus will be more on the cost management. So this is what we discussed yesterday. So this is a quick recap that financial management or the management of finance is nothing but it is basically management of money. And in any business context, this management of money is done with respect to four key decisions. So one is known as capital structure decisions, another is known as capital budgeting decisions, the next is known as working capital management decision, and the next one is known as dividend decisions, right? And with respect to this, how the accounting has to be done, how the different three different statement looks like, just like profit and loss statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement, all that we discussed yesterday, and how to prepare these statements and all, right? Now, for today's session, our focus will be more on the managerial accounting or management accounting, and there primarily we will be focusing on the overall cost management practices for a startup. So this is something from where we would like to start, and this is something which we were discussing again and again yesterday also, and I would like to start from this point. And this is how we see that whatever revenue or sales you have generated, from that revenue and sales, if you can simply reduce the cost, then ultimately you are going to get your profits. Now the point is that this sales is something which gets affected by many factors, and this profit is also something which gets affected by many factors. Similarly, cost is something which gets affected by many factors. But out of these three, we can say that profit is something which is dependent upon sales and cost, but then sales and cost can behave independently. So that is why it becomes important to understand that what are the factors which affect the sales, and we can say that some of these factors could be maybe demand, or the competition in the market, or the kind of selling price you are having, or the kind of market strategies you are adopting, or whatever your USPs are associated with the products and services that you are offering. All these factors actually affect the sales of your organization. Similarly, when we talk about that, what are the factors which affect the cost for your organization, then we can say that costs can largely be depend upon that what are the factor of productions, what is the volume of production that you are doing, what kind of product mix you are having, what kind of capacity utilization you are doing, what kind of efficiency and effectiveness you are adopting in your production processes and all. So we can very well see that if sales is a function of these many factors, and if the cost is a function of these many factors, and if we are not able to increase sales by managing these factors well, and if we are not able to minimize or reduce cost by managing these factors, then ultimately our profitability is going to hamper. Or we can put it in this way that if sales is, let's say, remaining constant, and if your cost is increasing, then ultimately what will happen, the profitability of your venture will go down. And we very well understand that you are in the business to ensure profits, to ensure shareholders wealth, and you are also in the business to ensure uh, that ultimately the overall wealth of stakeholders should be maximized. So that is why it is always important that we should see that how the cost structure in an organization is being managed, how things are done, how things are controlled, so that you are able to take appropriate decision with respect to costing of your products and services that you are going to offer as part of your entrepreneurial venture. And as a result of it, ultimately you are able to secure some sort of profitability for your venture. So on that note, we are going to start. This is just an elaborated version of what we discussed in this one only. So in general, whenever whatever revenue you have generated, out of that revenue, first you need to reduce your cost of sales. And after cost of sale, whatever you will get, you will call this as earning before depreciation, interest and tax. And out of which we normally tend to deduct the depreciation and amortization. So after deducting this one, you will get your earning before interest and tax. Now after that, whatever finances you have taken, whatever money you have taken in order to run your business on loan, then you need to pay interest on that. So that is also cost for you. So you will deduct this cost from your EBIT, and then finally you will have earning before tax. And on this amount, the tax will be charged, and tax is again a cost for the business. So the after paying tax, whatever will be left, that will be your profit. So this is just an elaborated version of how sales to net profit dynamics actually works. And in this process, you can see that there's a lot of cost component that we have charged, and this is something which we need to manage in such a way so that we are able to manage our cost effectively, and as a result of it, with respect to whatever performance we are doing in our in the generation of revenue or sales, ultimately that is going to that is getting converted into the profits, or that is actually visible in the net profit figure of the business. Any confusion till this point?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So we can proceed from this point. So let's talk about what is management accounting. I'm not going too much into theoretical aspects. I just wish to give you one or two definitions, and then I'll talk about only the application part. So basically, management accounting is nothing but these are basically those decision-making tools which actually help the organization to maintain those information which can help the managers, or which can help the people who are responsible to manage the firm to take decision in such a way so that these decisions are efficient and effective ones. And ultimately, in a nutshell, if we are supposed to summarize, the management accounting actually help the management to primarily focus on that how costs management will be done in an organization. And in order to do this cost management, there are no specific format, there are no specific structures which are prescribed, or we can say that in management accounting there are no standard formats which are available, just like what we have in our financial accounting module or financial accounting. And that is why we can say that management accounting is something which is completely optional, which is completely flexible, and the management can decide as per their requirement that what kind of strategies, what kind of data, what kind of information they wish to manage, so that ultimately they are able to discharge their function in a better way or in an efficient way. So there are organizations which tend to manage these structures, or manage this data or maybe on daily basis. Also, there are organizations which are managing these on weekly basis. There are organizations which are managing these on fortnightly or maybe monthly basis also. So it is completely up to them. And we can also see that in financial accounting, when we were discussing, our main focus was that whatever transactions or whatever thing has happened and where the monetary terms were involved, we are going to, or we were actually recording all those transactions, right? But here in case of management accounting, it not only focuses on the quantitative information, but the qualitative information is also very, very relevant. Let me give you an example here. So let's say you are running a restaurant, right? And while running this restaurant, on one fine day, you realize that the overall footfall of customers in your restaurant was very less. Or maybe there were few customers who were visiting your restaurant on regular basis, and they were accompanying with some kids, and these kids were actually damaging few things in your organization. Now, whenever you will see these damages, or whenever you see the behavior of your data or behavior of the financial information, you are also going to combine this with the kind of qualitative event that has happened, because that will actually help you out to understand that what was the root cause of this one, so that ultimately if these losses are happening, then ultimately you will be in a position to minimize or curb those losses. So the basic objective in a nutshell, we can say that management accounting is nothing but our focus is to manage the cost structure, or to manage the entire decision making in an organization in such a way so that ultimately whatever decisions we are taking, those are actually helping us to minimize the cost and ultimately maximizing the profitability of the firm. So on this note, what we can do that since we are focusing on the cost management in the management accounting, so what we can do that let us have some discussion on the cost structure and the cost behavior in an organization. So let us see what is the role of cost in the decision making. So we all understand that whatever business you are into, or whatever venture you want to start, or whatever startup you wish to initiate, ultimately in that startup, at each and every point, one thing which is always going to present will be the cost. And cost is nothing but these are basically the expenses, right? So no business can start from expenses. So let's say if you want to start, let's say tech startup. So in order to do the tech startup, you need some space, you need some room, you need some office, then you need some computer, you need some accessories, you need some software and other things. So everything you are going to procure will always attract some cost. And the good thing is that if you are able to minimize this cost, then ultimately you will be managing your organization very efficiently, you will be managing your venture very efficiently, and ultimately that will be reflected in the overall profitability of your business. So that is why cost plays a very significant role in the decision making in an organization. And the first and foremost thing which I would like to talk about with respect to role of cost in decision making is that it actually help you out to choose the best alternative. And normally this is something which we have witnessed in our behavior also, that if you're going to the market and if you want to purchase some goods or services, and if you're getting the similar kind of goods and services from two suppliers, and one is giving you at a cheaper rate and one is giving you at higher rate, then obviously you're going to choose from the one which is going to give you the cheaper rate. So that is why it helps you to choose the best alternatives. Then cost is directly responsible for your pricing decision. So we can say this in this way, that whatever is your cost of production, or whatever is your cost of producing and selling those goods and services in the market, on that cost, whatever profit margin you wish to take, if you add those profit margins to the cost, that ultimately becomes your selling price. Right. So that is how you normally decide that what should be selling price for your organization. That is directly dependent upon that what kind of pricing decisions you are taking. Then ultimately it also help you out to decide that what should be my optimal level of operations and behavior. That means that let's say that although in my next few slides I will be discussing that this cost is defined and categorized into different categories, and with respect to its behavior we try to consider this in a different way. But normally what we can say that let's say right now if I'm producing 10,000 units for something, and tomorrow if I wish to move to let's say 15,000 units. So ultimately what I'm going to do is that I need to make out that if I'm producing 10,000 units, then what is my cost or per unit cost? And if I'm increasing my factor, if I'm increasing my economy of scale, and if I'm increasing, if I'm going for more production, then ultimately will it going to give me a lesser per unit cost, or is it ultimately going to ask for a higher per unit cost, right? So these are the decisions which we can always take, and this costing actually help you to determine or help you to assess that at what level, at what level of production, what kind of selling structure is required, what kind of cost will be involved, what kind of profitability will be there, and based on these permutation combination, whatever is the best alternative, ultimately you're going to select that one. Then we can say that it also help you out to take the make or buy decision. And this is one very relevant decision in the business field, that should you manufacture the goods and services, or should you manufacture those things which are required to produce the final goods, or should you depend upon taking these from the outsiders. So let's say you want to start a restaurant, and in that restaurant, let's say you always require or there is always a need of some bread, right? Now you always can take a decision that will you go and buy this bread from the market, or will you actually start your own bakery along with your restaurant, and you will start producing these bread so that you are able to optimize on that, right? Now the decision will largely depend upon that what is the cost of buying the bread from the market, and what is the cost of producing the bread in your restaurant only, right? Now, if the cost of buying the bread from the market is higher than the cost of producing this in the restaurant, then ultimately you are going to go for making these breads, or go for manufacturing this bread in your restaurant. On the contrary, if let's say if the market price is lower and the cost of manufacturing is going to be higher, then ultimately you will say that I'll go for a buy decision. I'll not go for making these things, because ultimately these things are available at a cheaper cost in the market. So that is how this cost actually help you to take your decisions in this way. Similarly, it help you to decide that whether should we go for replacing our existing capital equipment, which is nothing but the large machinery and all, So let's say you are into manufacturing of some things, and for manufacturing you are using an old machine, and while using this machine, the per unit manufacturing cost is turning out to be, let's say, 100. Now you need to see that if let's say I'm going for taking a new machine, and if I want to replace this existing machine with a new machine, then how much additional capital investment do I need to do, and then with that what will be my per unit cost of production. So let's say by taking quotations from the market and all, we figured out, let's say, that the total investment of 10 lakh will be done in order to procure the new machine and replace the existing one, and based on that my overall per unit cost, which was currently 100, can move down to, let's say, 20. So now we need to take a decision, or we need to draw this kind of analysis, that whether this 10 lakh investment is worthy enough to reduce our cost or reduce our factor of production or cost of production by 80 rupees, which was held from 100 to the 20 with the in case of new machine. So these are some of the decisions which we can always take, and we can decide that should we go for replacement or not. And ultimately the this decision is going to be based on where you are incurring the least cost. So those are the decisions which we are supposed to take. Then we can also decide about that should we go and procure, or should we go for further expansion of things or not, or should we create assets for us or not, or should we take those assets on rent and or something. So let's say you have one restaurant, you want to start another restaurant, so you can always decide with the help of the costing only, you can always decide that will you go and construct a new restaurant maybe in the nearby location or the location where you want to start, or will you go and take this on rent. So that actually help you out to decide that are you going to create the fixed asset, which is nothing but a restaurant, or are you going to take this entire thing on rent or maybe on lease, and you are just willing to run your own routine operations. So these are some of the decisions which you can always take with respect to cost in your over in the organization's working. Then it also help you out to shut down and then continual operations. So you can always figure out that if whatever revenue you're generating, if that is higher than your cost, then obviously you will say that we should continue our operation. But if your revenue generated is lower than your cost, and ultimately you are incurring losses, so it can help you out to take the decision that whether you're going to shut down your business or not. Then you can also see that what should we do. This is something which we have already discussed. I've already given you references that whether you should buy an asset, or you should hire it, or you should took this on maybe lease, or maybe on hire purchase, or maybe on another agreement. This is something which you always can decide based on whatever cost structure is prevailing with respect to these decisions in the discipline. And then obviously if you want to evaluate different project, different business unit or vertical in your organization, then that is something which you can also do with the help of seeing the cost structure of the company. By this, by seeing all these factors, we can very well say that costing is going to play a very important role in the success of your venture or success of your entrepreneurial venture. And that is how we can say that we should know what are the skills, what are the tools and techniques which are required to train ourselves with respect to that, how the cost behavior should happen in an organization, and how ultimately we are going to take decisions which are actually helpful to minimize the overall cost structure of the organization. So any confusion till this point? Anything anybody would like to ask? I move ahead. Okay. Since there is no response, so I can assume. Okay. So then in that case, what we can do that again and again, since we are discussing about costing, cost management, relevance of cost. So what is this cost? So cost is nothing but, we can understand that these are nothing but these are basically the expenses only. So in order to procure something, in order to purchase something, in order to acquire something, whatever cost you have paid, whatever expenses you have paid, that is nothing but that is cost for the business. And if you'll see the classical definition which is given by Institute of Cost and Work Accountant of India, then they say that it is costing is nothing but it is basically management measurement in the monetary term of the amount of resources used for the purpose of production of good or rendering the services. It is basically, let's say you are into business of restaurant, then in order to start this restaurant, let's say you purchase some furniture, you purchase some let's say some building, or maybe some space for that. You hired certain people who are going to work for you. You hired people who are going to do cooking for you. You hired waiters who are going to serve this to all people. You hired few security people and all. So in order to do all these, you have to incur some expenses, and these expenses are nothing but these are the costs for the organization. So by understanding that what is cost, we need to understand that what are the different type of costs, because many times whenever we are dealing in this discipline, we always hear that this kind of cost was incurred, that kind of cost was incurred, this is a controllable cost, this is non-controllable cost, this is a fixed cost, this is variable cost. So ultimately what we are going to learn is that what are these different type of cost, right? So based on certain classification criteria, we are going to classify these costs, and we are going to say that how different costs should be treated, or how these are defined, or how these should be considered by the entrepreneur while they are going to start their entrepreneurial venture. So we can say that on the basis of management function means the way management is using this cost. The cost is normally divided into two. One is operating cost, another is non-operating cost, right? So one type of cost is known as operating cost, and another is known as non-operating cost. Now operating cost, non-operating cost, it is very easy to define. What you're supposed to do is that whatever is your core business, or whatever are your core operations. So let's say if you are into hospitals, then your ultimate objective is to produce or to provide services to patients, right? If you are into manufacturing of, let's say, drugs, then ultimately you are into manufacturing of drugs business, your job is to produce drugs, right? You are into restaurant, then your purpose is, or your objective is to provide dining services to the people who are willing to come to your restaurant, or to provide take home delivery kind of services, right? No. So whatever is the core objective for the business, you know, uh, in those core objectives, or in those core activities, whatever cost is getting incurred, that is something which we are going to classify as operating cost. And other than that, the other costs which are getting incurred are going to be classified as non-operating costs. So just like in case of restaurant only, the core job of the restaurant is to provide uh, dining services to the customers. But other than this one, let's say if this restaurant has also kept let's say a shelf in the restaurant, and there they are selling books also, or they have tie up with some bookseller, and that shelf is put in there, so that those who are dining, if they are willing to purchase certain books, they can purchase from the restaurant only, right? Now, if this is happening, then in this case, we can say that the operating activity for this business is to provide dining services. But other than that, whatever other things are being done and which are not related to this one are going to be part of non-operating. Now, in this case, whatever cost will be incurred in the operating activity is going to be classified as operating cost, and whatever is incurred in case of non-operating activity, that is something which is going to be classified as non-operating cost. So, hope it is clear what is operating cost, what is non-operating cost.
Sir, in case something happens to the furniture of the restaurant
Yes.
and it is get repaired, then will it be operating cost or
It
not?
is operating. It is operating because rest. If this furniture is used for dining, then it will be operating. But let's say if this furniture is used by the bookseller of the vendor, which is selling its book in the restaurant only, or you have given the space to that person to sell their books on that one, then it will be non-operating. So let me
Okay.
give you an example from hospital sector. Now, please tell me, in hospital, the core service of the hospital is to provide those services which are required for the patient care, or maybe for treating the patients. So let's say you have OPD services, you have IPD services, and other things. Now, let's assume a situation that this hospital is also having some earning, or they are also incurring something in the parking. And this parking is not used for patient, rather this is used for the people who are accompanying the patients. Or maybe this is used for the people who are just coming to visit the patient, or they are just coming to see the patients. Now, in this case, whatever cost is getting incurred on this parking space, or whatever revenue is generated from parking space, or whatever cost is incurred in this parking space is going to be categorized as non-operating cost. Hope it is clear what is operating, what is non-operating.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So let's proceed. Talk about the non-operating. It's the same thing which we have discussed. So non-operating is something which is normally incurred for the support functions, right? So whatever is incurred, which is not directly associated, but it is related to some support functions, and that is going to be non-operating. That is going to be something for additional functions. Let's proceed. Let us see some other classification. Now, this is very, very important, and I want attention of all of you on this one. That another classification of our cost, which is done on the basis of behavior, is we classify this into 3: variable cost, fixed cost, and the semi-variable cost. Have you heard it in the past? Variable cost, fixed cost, and semi-variable cost. Okay, so let me elaborate on this. Yes, yes. Yes, somebody is saying something.
No, we have not heard it.
Okay, no worries. So I'll elaborate on this. So now these 3 cost structures are very important, and majority of the decision making is actually largely based on this only. And we call this as variable cost, fixed cost, and semi-variable cost. Now, what are these 3? Let me elaborate. Now, variable cost is something which actually proportionately vary with your level of production. So let's say you are into let's say you are into cycle production business, right? Now, in order to produce this cycle, in order to produce one cycle, you require 2 tires, one front tire and one rear tire, right? Now, if you'll produce one cycle, you need 2 tires. If you'll produce 10 cycle, you need 20 tires. If you'll produce 100 cycle, you need 200 tires, right? So that means we can say that the cost of tire or the requirement of tire is directly proportional to the production of the cycle. So the number of cycle which you are going to produce, proportionately the overall cost of tire or overall requirement of tire is going to be there. So that is something which we say that variable cost is something which varies directly proportionate to the volume of your production or volume of services that you are producing or that you are providing, right? Hope it is clear what is variable cost. Hope it is clear what is variable cost. Or if you, do you want any example from some specific context, then please tell me. I can give you example from specific context. Maybe with respect to specific ventures and all.
One more example.
Example from which sector should I give, ma'am?
Any, whichever you feel, maybe the hospital sector or.
I can give from any. I can give from any. So let's talk about hospital sector only. Yes. So let's talk about hospital only. And these days, what is happening that this COVID testing is getting done very frequently, right? RT-PCR test. So let's say you are a representative of Bilal, that is a lab which is actually doing this RT-PCR testing in Rajasthan also. So in order to do one RT-PCR test, what all you are supposed to do? So let's say once customer has walked in, and after that you will print that application form and you will give it to the customer. So that means for one customer, printing of 1 page is required. So this cost is going to be variable cost. After that, when this patient goes in the queue, and then in order to take the swab from nose and your throat, then you need to use those swab instrument, right? So those are going to be used in proportion to the patients only. So that is ultimately going to be categorized as the variable cost. Now, after that, let's say for each person, if let's say they are spending or they are using, let's say sanitizer of, let's say 50 ml for each person, then the cost of this 50 ml sanitizer is going to be categorized as the variable cost for this one. So this is how we can categorize that this is going to be variable cost. Now, let's talk about when this person walked into this Bilal lab, and at that time there was a computer operator who was actually doing the entries for this one. So who was making these entries and giving the application form for giving the sample and all. So at that time, this computer operator is not varying, or the requirement of computer operator is not directly varying on the number of people or number of customers or number of patients who are walking into this lab. So one computer operator can on one fine day, it can cater to 100 people also. And one fine day when there is lot of rush, it can cater to 500 people also. So up to the maximum limit, this number is not going to change. So if you are having only one patient which is walking into this lab, then also you are supposed to have a computer operator. And if you are having, let's say 200 patient walking into this one, and if this person can handle 200, then also you have to have it. So that is why this kind of cost is not known as variable cost, rather than this is known as something else, and we call this as fixed cost. Similarly, the person who is responsible for collecting samples, or let's say the computer that you put in over there, or maybe the van which you are using in order to transfer these samples from the collection point to your laboratory and all these are something which are related to fixed cost. That means these are going to remain fixed. Or maybe we can say electricity expenses, or maybe your telephone rent, or maybe the internet connectivity expenses and everything. So whatever is there which is of fixed nature and which is not directly varying with respect to volume of sales or volume of production, then that is something which we are going to categorize as fixed cost. And if anything which is directly getting proportional or which is directly varying with respect to volume of sales, then that is something which we are going to categorize as the variable cost. So hope it is clear what is variable cost, what is fixed cost.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Yes. Yes. So let's proceed from here. Now we can see from this perspective also. So let's say in this session also, whether 5 people are joining or whether 1 person is joining or whether 50 people are joining, is cost going to vary with respect to number of participants? So cost for organizing this, is it going to vary with respect to number of participants?
No, it is not.
No.
It is
So then,
fixed cost.
yes. So then we'll say that this is a fixed cost, but some few things which are going to vary with respect to that is something which you're going to say as variable cost. So let's say if everybody is participating in the quizzes and we are providing hard copies of quiz to all of them. So that means those who are interested, so if 1 person will participate, we have to print 1 copy, and if 10 people will participate, we have to produce 10 copies. So in that case, we will say that that is the cost which we can say that this is the variable cost. So hope it is clear that what is variable cost? What is fixed cost?
Yes.
So fixed cost is something which actually remains fixed with respect to changes in volume. So the only caveat in fixed cost is that it remains fixed only up till the maximum capacity. So let's say in the same Bilal example, if one person in the whole day with the maximum utilization capacity can only register 200 people, and if you are having a walk-in of, let's say, more than 200 people in your laboratory for sample, then in that case you have to deploy one more person. So that is why in that case, although it was a fixed cost, but then with respect, since the optimum utilization is done, since the highest capacity is already utilized, so in this case you have to inculcate, or you have to incur another round of fixed costs. You have to ask, or you have to put one more computer operator who can handle these additional volumes, and then it is going to remain constant till the 400 level of volume or 400 level of patient which are walking into. So same thing happens everywhere, right? Now let's say even in this meeting also, let's say on MS Teams, if there is a limit of only with one account we can only connect 100 people, and if there are, let's say, 200 people who are willing to participate, then ultimately what will happen? Then for 100 people this will be fixed cost. But after that, if we want to have 200 people, then ultimately we have to increase the cost first, and then we will say that now we have incurred fixed cost for 200. So up till 200, whosoever will be joining or whatever number of people will be joining, our cost is going to remain the fixed one. So hope it is clear what is fixed cost, what is variable cost.
Yes, sir.
Now let us talk about something known as semi-variable cost. So semi-variable cost is nothing but it is basically a combination of variable cost and fixed cost only. So semi-variable cost is basically the one where we say that with respect to changes in volume, if your cost is incrementally changing. So incremental change basically means, let's say in an hospital, or maybe in a hospital context only, we can see that in an hospital context, you have deployed some sweeping staff, and you have deployed, let's say, 2 sweeping staff which can cater, let's say 200 bed which are there in your hospital. Now if only 20 beds are getting occupied, then these two people are sufficient enough to manage this cost. These two people can look after all this thing. But let's say if you are having 30 beds which are getting occupied, or if let's say if you have increased the capacity and you have added some more beds and those are getting fulfilled because of let's say COVID or any other situation, then in this case what will happen that you have to appoint additional person for that additional 10 beds, right? So for first 20 beds you appointed 2 sleeping staff, or for additional 10 beds you have to incur or you have to appoint additional person, right? Now, if this is a seasonal requirement only, that means you need this sweeper only for the situation when these additional beds are occupied, otherwise it is not there. And in the entire year, if this is required only for 2 months, then you are going to incur this cost for 2 months only. You will not have it for the entire year. So that is how what is happening is that with respect to changes in volume, your cost is changing, but not directly proportional. Rather, it is changing incrementally. That means it will change and then it will remain constant for some time, right? So this is something which is known as semi-variable cost. So hope we are clear with what is fixed cost, what is variable cost, and what is semi-variable cost. Hope we are clear with this. If yes, then I want to show you some example. Yes, so then I want to show you some example. So what I'll do, I'll open the Excel and here I'll show you something. So what kind of example should we take? Please tell me any sector or any business so that I can take the relevant example. Should we talk about restaurant? Should we talk about hospitals? Should we talk about some manufacturing? Should we talk about tech firm? What should we talk about?
Some publishing firm.
Publishing firm? Okay, great. Yes. So I'll take publication house, right? Now in case of publication house, let's start with something known as sales, and then we will be writing our fixed cost, and then variable cost, and then semi-variable cost, right? And this is something which we are going to define. Now let's say this publication house is having, let's say, 2 books. So there is book 1. This publication house is having 2 books. So let me insert here so that I can write it here. Here is book 1 and here is book 2. So this publication house is producing 2 books. And number of quantity which is sold for book 1 is, quantity sold for book 1 is, let's say, 1000 unit, and for 2 it is, let's say, 2000 unit. And selling price, here I am writing selling price. Selling price for this one is, for book 1 is, let's say, 500 rupees, and for book 2, so it is rupees 500, and for book 2 it is, let's say, rupees 300, right? And let me take this sales here, and now let me start building on this, and then we will see that how we are going to categorize it. Now please tell me, from this one, how much revenue will they generate? So they have sold these many books, and this is the selling price. So can I say that whatever revenue they have generated from book 1, that whatever is the quantity that they have sold multiplied by whatever revenue that is generated, plus whatever was the quantity of this one multiplied by whatever selling price was there for this one, and this will be their total revenue. And this is an error. Why? Because these numbers are written in text. Now it will be. So how much revenue this firm has generated? 1 crore 1 lakh rupees.
Yes, sir.
Right? Now this much of revenue this has generated, and we very well understand that from where this revenue has come, right? So if we can, even if you want to see the total revenue for each one, then you can see from here also. So you can simply multiply this with this. So roughly this one, how much? 5 lakh was generated from book 1, and how much is generated from this one? So let me see this one. 6 lakh is generated from this one, and in total we have generated 11 lakh rupees. Not 1 crore 1 lakh, it is 11 lakh rupees, right? So if you see total sum of these, if you see sum of these, so that means they have generated in total 11 lakh rupees. Now out of 11 lakh rupees, please tell me that what could be the different components of fixed cost, and all those components I will be writing, and then I will be assuming the cost for that one, right? So please tell me, In order to do this, do they need an office or not? And if this office is something which they have purchased, then will that be fixed cost or not for them? Or maybe they have taken this office on rent. So then will the rent amount will be fixed cost or not? Because rent is something which you have to pay whether you are producing 1 unit or whether you are producing 500 units.
Yes, a fixed cost.
Yes. Can I say electricity? Fixed cost?
Practically fixed. Amount can
Yes.
be changed.
It can vary, but primarily the minimum electricity you have to pay as fixed, because this we are doing for office, not for the manufacturing plant. So from office, whether you are selling one or whether you're selling 500 unit or 2000 unit, ultimately that is going to be their electricity. Maybe say we can say internet expenses. We can say phone expenses. We can say salaries of that staff, which is your permanent staff, not the daily wage worker, right? Because daily wage worker is only required when you want to go for more production. But whenever you are considering people on a longer term role, whenever you are giving them a longer term profile, then there you always assume that whether it will be less production or high production, ultimately these people are going to be there. So can I say these could be some of the sources of fixed cost? Can I say that? These will be some of the sources for fixed cost. Please confirm. And we can add some more component here also. Now, please tell me how much fixed cost should I consider for all these? Can I say that, let's say, by adding all these, the total fixed cost for this company in a month is, let's say, 3 lakh rupees. Can I say so?
Yeah, you can assume.
Yeah, we are just assuming, right? Because ultimately,
Yeah.
if you want to categorize this, then what we can do, we can write everything here and then we can write numbers and then finally we can edit here, right? Now, let's
Yes.
assume that in order to produce this one, because these are two different books, so ultimately cost of production for these books should be different. So let's say in order to produce book one, the variable cost which is required is, let's say, I'm calling this as 200 rupees, and for book 2 the variable cost which is required to produce this is, let's say, 120 rupees. Now please tell me what will be my total variable cost. So can I say that the number of quantity which I sold for book 1 multiplied by variable cost for this one, plus whatever quantity I sold for book 2 multiplied by the variable cost of this one, and this will be my total variable cost. Can I say so? Can I say so?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now I'll come to the semi-variable cost shortly, but let me do one thing. Let us assume that semi-variable cost is nil, so it is 0. So what will be my profit? So I can say that out of sales, or let me add one more column and let me show you the total cost first. So if I want to see that how much is my total cost, what I can do, I can simply add these factors. So I can say fixed cost, variable cost, and semi-variable cost. And here I can see that this is the total cost that I have incurred. So I have incurred a cost of 7,40,000 rupees, and I have generated a revenue of 11 lakh rupees. So what will be my profit? So can I say that this amount minus this amount will be my will be my, let's say, profit. So can I say that 3,60,000 will be profit in this case?
Yeah.
Yes. So hope you are able to understand what is fixed and what is variable cost. Now should I bring the semi-variable example here only? So should I tweak this one and then bring the semi-variable thing?
Yeah, you can.
Yes. So I'm writing here.
In this case would be like the requirement of paper or
Yeah, so the requirement of paper is already covered in this variable only. Let me write it here. So let's say this is number of pages required, printing cost, even let's say if some royalty is given to author per book, then that one, then maybe it's transportation cost and binding cost. So I can write many facts here. Hope it is clear that what will be subheads of this variable cost.
yes, sir.
Yes, right. Now let me, in the same example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the angle of semi-variable cost. So in case one, there was no semi-variable cost which was incurred. But now here it is written, if the production is more than let's say 1500 units, then we need to purchase, or we need to create extra space for storage, right? If the production is more than 1500 unit, then we need to create the extra space for that one, right? Now please tell me, if the overall selling of book 1 is getting extended beyond 1500 units, then will I say that I need to add some additional storage space, and that is something which I can call as semi-variable, because this will only be required if my production will go beyond 1500, otherwise it will not be required.
Yes, sir.
Yes, and here I'm writing that the cost of storage is, let's say, 50,000 rupees, right? So it is 50,000. So then what will happen in the same, if I'm selling, in spite of 1000 units, if I'm selling 1500 units here, then what will happen? I have to add some variable, semi-variable cost here, and then only I will be in a position to create my profit. So let me do one thing. Let me call this as 1600 units. And let me keep this as the same only. So in this one, what will happen? So with 1600 units, this will be my sales. So my sale was it was 11 lakh rupees. Now it is 14 lakh rupees because of change in this one. And based on this, my variable cost, semi-variable cost is going to go up by roughly, let's say, 50,000. So this is how we can see, and this is how we can say that with increase in production, even if some additional variable cost is incurred, which in the form of semi-variable cost, we are ultimately able to generate a profit of 4,90,000. And this is how typically we do, or this is how typically we create models in our Excel in order to do these things. Hope it is clear how to do the costing and all, and how do we categorize things.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. Now on this note only, by considering this kind of data only, we normally tend to go and forecast, right? So year on year forecasting is also done by considering this kind of information only. Let me show you that also at this moment. So what we'll do, we will be creating some forecast for publishing company, right? And we are naming this company as ABC Limited, right? Now let us do the forecast. So in forecast, will you agree with me on this, that ultimately forecast has to be done for some time period? So we can say that year wise. So let's say this is 2020, 2021, 22, 2023 and 2024. So I'm taking 5-year data. Now what are the subheads should I take? So I can say sales, I can say variable cost, I can say fixed cost, and then I can say semi-variable cost, and then I can say profit. Let me write total cost first, and then I can say profit, right? Now please tell me, if I want to do this forecasting, then there are multiple ways through which it can be done. Can I do this on the basis of my judgment as an entrepreneur? Can I do this based on my judgment that how much I will be selling next year and all? Can I do this? Can I forecast my sale based on my judgment that how much I'm going to do? Because ultimately, if you want to forecast this in a scientific way, then you need to have data for the previous year, and previous year information is not available because this is in a startup. So in this case, if I want to forecast, then can I assume certain numbers that this much of sale I will be doing in the first year, and then accordingly I can do the forecast?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yes. So then let me do one thing. Let me write here. Write certain assumptions here. Selling price per unit. And here I'm writing, and we are taking example only book 1 only. So let's say selling price is, I'm just taking a random number 500 per unit, right? Variable cost per unit is, let's say 300. Fixed cost is, let's say we are taking maybe 5 lakh. I'm just taking semi-variable cost up till production of 10,000 units is, let's say, so semi-variable cost up till 10,000 units of production is, let's say, 1 lakh. And after 10,000, if this further increases, just a moment, let me slightly. And after 10,000 unit, if this further increases, so I'm saying that from 10,000 to 20,000 unit, if you are moving from 10,000 to 20,000 or more than 10,000, let me write more than 10,000 units, then it will go up to, let's say, 2 lakh rupees. That means additional 1 lakh will be incurred, right? So this is how the structure that I have taken. Now let me do some forecast here. Now, first of all, let me take sales in units. So this is an assumption that I need to take for first year, and then I'll tell you with what rate we can grow. And here I'm writing revenue, right? So I'm assuming that in first year, I'm going to make a sale of, let's say, 8,000 copies of this book. And this is an assumption which I've taken for first year, and I'm putting this as yellow. Now, after this 8,000 unit in first year, I'm assuming that every year the growth rate will be 10%. That means my sale will grow by 10% each year. So can I say that this number will grow by, let's say, 1.1, that is 10%. So can I say that these will be my forecasted numbers or forecasted sales figures? That on first year, if I'm making 10,000 as a 8,000 as a sales, and with an assumption of 10% every year, next year sales will be 8,800 unit. After that, it will be 9,680 unit. After that, it will be 10,648 units, and then it will be 11,712. Any confusion till this point? Any confusion till this point? So I assume only for 1 year, and I assume the growth rate, and after that everything has happened automatically, right? Now after that, let me compute my revenue. Now for other things, I need not to make assumption because assumptions are already written here. So I need to make my revenue. A revenue is nothing but number of units sold multiplied by your selling price per unit, that is 500. So this is the revenue for first year. And if I want to compute this for all other years, then I can simply multiply this with that number and it will be done. So let me show it to you. So see, now I have revenue for each year. So 8,800 unit multiplied by 500. Similarly, 9,680 unit multiplied by 500. And this is how I can forecast this one. Then let me talk about variable cost, and variable cost is directly proportional to volume. So I'll say this multiplied by my variable cost per unit, and I'll enter this, and this is how I will get my variable cost. So let me drag this also. Let me drag this. Now after variable cost, I need to see my fixed cost, and fixed cost is something which is going to remain same every year. So I'll simply use this as a fixed cost, and this will remain same for all the years. And after that, I need to see semi-variable. Now please tell me, up till 10,000 units of production, what is the variable cost which is given? What is the semi-variable cost which is given up till 10,000 units?
2 lakh.
No, up till 10,000. Till 10,000 units. Just see this one.
1
The
lakh.
highlight 1 lakh, right? So now in 2020, should I use 1 lakh as semi-variable or 2 lakh as semi-variable?
That will also change. It will not remain the same.
But it is clearly written that till the time you are producing 10,000 units, it will be only 1 lakh rupees.
So it will remain same.
Yes. So up till whenever you are producing only 10,000 units, right? But if you are moving beyond 10,000 unit, that means in 2023, if you'll see, you have moved from more than 10,000 unit. Now, how much cost will be incurred? In spite of 1 lakh, it will be 2 lakh. Yes, right. So excellent, right? So this is how it will be incurred. And after that, I can simply see my total cost. So what I can do, I can simply add variable cost, then fixed cost, and then semi-variable cost, and this will be my total cost. And if I want to see my profit,
sir, but
yes,
the fixed cost will also change.
No, ma'am. We need to define. Since we have not defined anything, so we are assuming that even if till this level of production, the fixed cost is going to remain the same. But if we are writing this categorically, that let's say beyond maybe 15,000 unit, you have to start a new, you have to procure one more machinery, or you have to start a new office or something, then only it will change.
Okay.
Right, ma'am? So here we are assuming that this fixed cost will remain fixed. Let me write this assumption also so that clarity is there. Till production of let's say 25,000 units, right, ma'am? But now hope you understand that even if let's say my assumption is different, and if I want to vary this also, then I can change that also here. How to do that? Hope you got that logic. Please confirm, ma'am. Hope that logic is there, because even if we are assuming that this is going to change, then we can always change that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just meaning here that the changes in the rentals, the changes in the salaries, and the changes in the electricity will be there. That is why I was saying.
Yes, yes.
The
But then
heads
we need
will
to
be
define it.
the
Yes, ma'am.
heads of the fixed assets will be same. The heads
Yes, ma'am.
for the cost will be same, but the cost will vary
So
every
what
year.
we can do, ma'am, what we can do, let me do something here, right? What I'm writing is that fixed cost as per different year, because in different years it can change because of inflation and other things, right? Or maybe you gave certain increments and all. So let me do one thing, that fixed cost will also incrementally change with respect to this one. So I'm saying that for the first year it will be 5 lakh. For next year it will be, let's say, 5 lakh 60,000. For next year it will be, let's say, 6 lakh 20,000. But then this should be treated as a fixed only. So if it is 6 lakh 20,000, irrespective of whether one unit is sold or whether 10,000 units are sold, it will remain same. Then let's say next year it is 7 lakh, and let's say for next year it is, let's say, 7 lakh 5,000. So then in this case, what I can do, ma'am, I can simply replace this fixed cost with this one. Now I have changed this one. Hope it is clear, ma'am, now that whatever we assume, we have adjusted that.
ठीक है, ओके, दैट्स ओके. यहाँ जो आप बता रहे हैं बेसिकली है कि फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट इज द कॉस्ट व्हिच इज फिक्स्ड.
Which is
In
fixed.
terms of the amount, it might change, but the
Yes.
fixed is the one which you have to bear no matter
The
what.
nature, yes, yes, the nature is fixed. The nature means
Nature
that
is.
once it is
Yes.
incurred, whether you
So
are
that
producing
is
one
what
unit, whether you
that
are producing
is.
additional unit, it will
Yeah.
never change. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So just excuse me for a minute. Excuse me for a minute. Yeah. Hello. Ji. Yes. So hope it is clear.
इसको हम मैंडेटरी भी कह सकते हैं.
We can say that. So basically, this is something which is incurred. Whether you are utilizing this for one unit or whether you are utilizing this for more unit, it will never change. Let me put it in this way, ma'am. Let's say you want to travel from one place to another place, and you have two options. One is that you can purchase the car, another is you can hire a car. Now the idea is, if you'll purchase this car, then this is something which is a fixed cost which is already incurred. So let's say in order to purchase this car, 10 lakh has already been incurred. Now, since you have purchased this car, so you have to buy insurance for that also, that is also incurred. You have to pay certain registration fees also, that is also incurred. So these are something which are already incurred. Now, whether you are using this car for 1 kilometer travel or 100 kilometer travel, ultimately the cost is going to fix. Cost is going to be fixed. The only thing that is going to vary will be the petrol cost and other thing, petrol cost or the toll prices or other thing. On the contrary, if you want to fulfill this requirement by taking this car on rent or by hiring this taxi from somewhere, then in that case, what you can say that this is something which is a variable cost. Why it is variable cost? Because today, if I want to travel for 10 kilometers, so whatever per kilometer the person is charging, I need to pay that only. My cost is not fixed in that sense. It will always be proportionately varying with respect to the kilometer of travel that I want to do. So hope it is clear, ma'am.
Yeah, is it clear,
Yes.
sir?
So then what we can do that we can compute our profit figures. So profit will be nothing but it will be revenue less my total cost, and my total cost is this one. So this is the total profit that I'm going to generate. And this is how typically we do the forecasting. Now the basic logic for forecasting remain the same, basic idea remain the same. The only thing that changes is that these assumptions. So these are the assumptions which actually affects all these. So here we took these assumptions and based on that our forecast is already ready. And normally in case of startups only, we normally tend to move or we normally tend to rely on these assumptions only because these are the ultimate source for us. In case of established organization, there is no need to rely on the assumption. We can proceed with the some scientific issues also, some scientific rules also. Let me show you that also. So let me do one thing. Let me go to money control again. Let me go to money control again. Let me show you for a real company. So let me take maybe Reliance from here. So let me go to financials and let me take their income statement only. Let me take annual and let me take only sales. I want to show you only forecasting of sales. So what I'll do, I'll simply paste the forecasted number for this company here. And here are the forecasted numbers which are available with me for these many years. And these years are 16. So let me put these in a chronological way. 17, 18, 90, and then here it is 20. And let me take these numbers here. Now let us try to forecast the sales for this firm for let's say 2021, 20. Or maybe let me drag this so that I can forecast this for next 5 years. Now if I want to forecast this for these years, then what I can do that how the company has performed in the past, my growth expectation forecasting can come from here only. And how? Let me tell you. So let me compute the growth rate, that how it has grown from 16 to 17. Then let me talk about growth from 17 to 18. Then growth from 18 to 19, and then growth 19 to 20. So let me compute these growth numbers, right, in percentage. So it will be, we all understand that if you want to compute growth, then the future value minus the past value divided by the past value, and this will give me my growth. And let me see whether I can drag this or not, because it is in horizontal form. So let me compute for this one also, this minus this divided by this. I'm just computing the growth rates, right? Which is basically a change in 2 years divided by the base year. And for this one, it is nothing but this sales minus this sales divided by this sales, right? So this is how this company has grown in these many years. And let me convert these into percentage so that you all can see. So this has been the growth rate of this company in past 5 years. From year 16 to 17, the company sales grow by 11.5%. From 17 to 18, it grow by 28.3%. From 18 to 19, it grow by 45.3%. And from 19 to 20, it grow by 4.8%. And if I want to see the average growth, then simply I can say average of these numbers, and then I can figure out that on an average, the sale of this company has grown by 22.5% in past 5 years. Now, please tell me, can I take this growth rate as an assumption for forecasting for next years? Rather than just assuming some rate, can I rely on this number? Because this is something which is coming from its past performance only, that this is how this company has performed in the past. Please tell me. So hope this is how, if this company has grown in the past, then can I assume this as a growth rate for next years? although what will happen in future, it is completely uncertain, but can I do certain approximation? Can I do some forecasting with this data, with this information?
Yes, sir. Can you go
Yes.
to this cell D10?
D10, yes, this is
Yeah.
just an average of these
Okay.
numbers, these
Okay.
four.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So just add all four and then divide it by 4.
4. Okay.
So let me do forecasting for this one. So I can simply say this previous year sale multiplied by 1.225, because that is 22.5% higher than the previous year. And this is how, if I can extend this, then this is how I can forecast my sale for these many years. Right? Have you heard something known as CAGR, compounded annual growth rate? Have you heard this term earlier?
We have heard projections. The projection,
Yes.
compound.
So let me talk about compounded annual growth rate, right? This is an important feature. What does it say? That here, what we have done, that here we computed these growth rates manually, year on year, we have computed this growth rate. And if you see, in earlier years, it was growing from 16 to 17, it was growing with 11.5%. Then from 17 to 18 year, it was growing with 28.3%. And then the maximum rise was witnessed in 18 to 19, that was 45.3, and in 2000, in the previous year, the growth rate was hardly 4.8%, right? And this was the average growth rate that we assume. But what does this compounded annual growth rate say is that what is that rate which is prevailing in this 5-year data, so that if you're compounding the initial value with that growth rate, you are able to reach to the final value. So that is something which actually talks about that what was the growth rate starting in from this year to this year. And that is not the simple average the way we have done it. And how it is computed, it is basically computed by just dividing this final number divided by initial number and by taking the yearth root. So according to this one, -1. So according to this compounded annual growth rate, the growth rate which is turning out to be, the growth rate which is getting calculated is not 22.5, rather it is 21.5. So what we can do that in spite of relying on 22.5, we can forecast this with 21.5. And this CAGR is treated as one major factor, one important factor for computing the growth rate. So in spite of taking simple growth rate, many times at many places you will see that this CAGR is used. And I'll show you on money control also that how it is used. So I can say 1.215, and this is how I can forecast, and these will be my forecasted sales based on CAGR. I'm highlighting this with green. So I can say that this forecast which is highlighted in yellow is based on my simple growth rate average of the past data, and this forecast is basically based on the CAGR data. If you see money control also talks about the CAGR only. And let me show you here. Here they give certain growth ratios. And in growth ratio, if you'll see, they talk about the CAGR only, and they normally take 3 years, past 3 years data for computing the computation of CAGR, that is compounded annual growth rate. So we can see that whenever it comes to do forecasting for our business, we can do forecasting based on the assumptions. If it is a startup and there are nothing which is prevailing, or we can, if it is a established firm, if it is already ongoing firm, then by seeing the past performance, we can forecast for the future with an assumption that what the way they have progressed in the past, the similar growth they are going to maintain in future also. Alternatively, in that case, what you can do, that try to figure out that what is that one company which is working in the market for good number of year, and they are offering similar kind of production services which you are planning to offer. Now, if you can figure out that company, then whatever growth rate at which that company is growing, you can consider that as a growth rate for your organization. And then accordingly, you can proceed with that. So now please confirm, are you clear with that how profit and costing situation is going to be done, how you're going to forecast for this one, how you're going to consider and take certain assumptions to figure out that how your cost sheet will be prepared and all? Hope you are able to understand this.
To some extent. So we added the 4 years growth and then averaged it out,
Yes, ma'am.
dividing by
Yes,
4.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Something
Yes,
like
ma'am.
that.
Yes, ma'am. This was just
Yeah,
that only. Let me show
yeah,
you. So let me show
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Let me add all this, right? Let me do
हाँ,
some.
कुछ. So I
I'll,
was thinking it's like Chakravarti Vyaj, but it's not like. It's sum
Chakravarti is
total
this,
of
ma'am. Chakravarti
all
is
four
this one.
divided by 4.
Yes, ma'am. But Chakravarti is this one. The compounded annual growth rate is nothing but Chakravarti only.
Yeah, yeah.
So the growth rate, if you want to use growth rate, which is nothing but a compounded growth rate, because Chakravarti is the word is nothing but compounded, right?
That
I
means
was
the
thinking
profit
कि
has
जैसा.
also.
Yes, yes. So now this is the forecasting that I've done for sales. Now accordingly, I can put all other factors the way I put in here, and then I can compute my profit also. Then I can forecast my profit also. So this is a simple growth rate. Let me write it here. This is simple growth rate. And this is compounded growth rate, which is the one exactly what ma'am is saying, Chakravarti one, right? So this is compounded growth rate. This is how we
So
can
in,
do it.
so in compounded growth rate, we are assuming that we are investing the profit again.
No, see, the idea is that what we are doing with profit, that is something which will depend upon that if we are considering dividend decisions here or not. But here we are, since we are talking about cost structure, so ultimately everything is dependent upon the sales only. Whatever is happening with this profit, whether we are reinvesting this or not, that is something which will come when we'll talk about the dividend decisions and all, because there then we need to see that whether by this additional investment is company going to create some more units, is company is going to create some extra manufacturing facility, is company is going to move enter into new markets and all. So that is something which requires some complex programming, although I can do if time permits. But here, our idea is only to see that with respect to changes in the sales figures, how other things are changing. Is this clear, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is what our objective is. This is what we are going to figure out. So what we can do that in spite of only taking, so from here I took only one data, that was sales. In spite of taking sales, I can take other data also, and then I can figure out that how my profit will change. So let me take my expenditures. Let me take one more variable and let me show you this. So I can take one more variable here. So let me first paste it here because some reshuffling has to be done. And then this is for this is for this is for this. And then let me tell you that how the profits are going to be forecasted. So give me a moment, I'll just show it to you. This is my expenses, and let me come here. Let me insert certain cells. This is sales forecast only, and let me write total cost. And total cost which was incurred in past years was this. So let me bring this here. Now, the way I have computed CAGR for this one, so we are going to consider only CAGR figures. These figures are going to be more reliable. In market also, we normally, in spite of focusing on these, we always try to focus on the CAGR numbers, right? So let me compute, let me delete this because I do not need this. You already understood this idea. So this is the CAGR of sales. This I computed. Let me compute the CAGR of, let's say, total cost. And this is nothing but value divided by the initial value raised to the power 1 by n. So that is 0.25. So here the growth rate is turning out to be, and this is -1. So what is happening? The growth rate in case of expenditure is negative. That means ultimately the overall expenses of this company are declining. Because in the 2016 their expenses were 1,36,275, and here their expenses are 1,09,217. So if the same trend prevails, then their expenses are going to ultimately decline. Right. So then what I'll do that I'll say that this amount minus, so let me first convert this into percentage. This is percentage. So roughly 5% we can take, right? So this is basically this amount multiplied by 0.95, that is 5% lesser. And this is how my cost will be forecasted. And then if I want to see my total profits, since I have forecasted my sales, so let me write here also sales minus cost and see my profits. I'm able to forecast my profits. Is it clear that how to do this? Now, in similar way, the more variables I'll add here, the more classification I can do, and I can do the forecasting. So are you able to understand that how to do forecasting and all?
To some extent. Yes.
Okay. So can we do this, that you will practice on this, and then if you have any query, then you can always get back to me for clarifications. And now I can show you the break-even analysis, that how to figure out that at what point we will be having break-even. Let me save this sheet so that I can share this sheet with all of you. So can I move to break-even analysis?
Okay, sir.
Great. So this sheet will give you so that you can put certain numbers and then you can do this forecasting, and at any point if you need any assistance you can always get back to us, right? So this sheet I'll share it with all of you. So let me come to my PPT. Just give me a moment. Let me come to my PPT again. So hope you're able to understand the cost structure, cost behavior and all. So that I can show you what do we mean by the break-even analysis. Let me share.
Understood the type of cost variable.
Yes, because that is something which is important, right? Ultimately, these cost structures are important because that can actually help you out to reach to break-even analysis. Now, what is break-even analysis? It is very simple. Break-even analysis is nothing. It basically talks about that at what level of production or at what level of selling your revenue and your cost will be equal to each other. So break-even analysis is nothing but it basically says that what level of production you will be having no profit, no loss situation. That means whatever revenue you generated and whatever cost you incurred, those are matching with each other. Or in another way, we can say that break-even analysis is used to figure out or to explore that what should be that minimum level of production at which you will have no profit, no loss situation. Because ultimately you will go for profit, but you will always try to figure out that if I can make this much level of sales, then ultimately I will not be incurring any losses and it will be a break-even point for me. So hope the concept of break-even is clear to all. That what is break-even? That is no profit, no loss situation. Right? Please confirm. Are you clear with the concept of break-even point or break-even analysis? That means in break-even analysis, we try to figure out that at what level of production, at what level of selling, my expenses are going to be clear matching with the income, or we can say that my expenses or my cost is equal to the revenue that I have generated. So that means whenever my cost and my revenue are matching with each other, that means in this situation I am neither generating any rupee as a profit nor I'm incurring any rupee as a loss. And this point is known as break-even point, or we call this analysis as break-even analysis. Able to understand this now? Are you able to understand this? Okay, let me put it in with the help of an example. Let's say you are into this publishing business only, and in order to sell one book, the cost of that book is turning out to be, let's say, 400 rupees. And you are selling this book for 400 rupees. So that means, can I say that you are having break even at this moment? Because your cost was 400 and you receive as 400. So that means you are not neither incurring losses nor you are generating profits. Can I say that?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So that is what the purpose of break-even analysis is. Now, if this line, just observe this line, if this line is my expenses line, right? And this is my revenue line. Now, at this moment, can I say that my revenue and expenses are matching with each other? at this moment when these two lines are intersecting with each other, can I say that my revenue and expenses are meeting with each other?
Yeah, so that is the break-even point.
That is the break-even point, right? Now here the break-even point is turning out to be that at 400 units, if this company is going to sell 400 units, that means at that level, neither they will generate profit, neither they will incur any loss. Now, if they will produce less than 400 units, then what will happen? They will inculcate or they will incur some losses. And if they will produce more than that, or if they will sell more than that, then they will generate some profit. So can I say that break even, with the help of break even point, I can analyze that to what extent? That means from 0 to 400 units of production, they will be incurring losses. But from 400 and above, they will be generating profit, and 400 is something which is their break even point. So hope it is clear now that what do we mean by break even analysis or break even point?
Yes.
Now I can help you out to compute this break even point. So the computation of break even point is very simple, and this is how we can compute our break even point. You can consider only the first one, and others are just the derivation of this only. So the computation of break even point is very easy. It is nothing but whatever is your fixed cost, divide your fixed cost with something known as sales minus variable cost, and this sales minus variable cost is also known as contribution per unit. So that means if you want to figure out that what will be your break-even point, what you can do, you can simply divide your fixed cost by sales minus variable cost, right? And then whatever number will come, that will be your break-even point in unit. That means these many number of units you are supposed to produce. So let me show you with this example. So here is the data. So the sales is 5,000 units, selling price per unit is 50, variable cost per unit is 30, and fixed cost is 35,000. So we need to compute break-even point. So what was the formula for break-even point which was given in previous slide? It was fixed cost divided by selling price minus variable cost, right? Now please tell me how much is fixed cost here?
35,000.
35,000 divided by what is the selling price?
15 to 4.
What is variable cost? No, selling price, not total selling revenue.
Okay. 50.
Selling price is how much? Per unit it is how much? 50?
50.
And how much is variable cost?
30.
30. So if I can compute this, then what will happen? So this will be 20.
Yeah.
So it will be 35,000
17,000
divided by 20. So it will be, this will be cancelled. So it will be somewhere around 17 some units. 1750 units.
Yeah.
So that means I can say that if this company is selling 1750 units, then this company will be having break even, or we can say that by selling 1750 unit, this company will neither make any profit nor make any loss. Now please tell me, if this company is making 2000 units, then will this company make profit or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it will make.
Yes. And if this company is producing only 1500 units, then will it incur loss or not?
Yes.
Yes, right. So this is what the objective is. This is what the purpose of break-even analysis is. And this is something which I've already calculated. So you can see from here, it is already calculated. So now you understand fixed cost divided by selling price minus variable cost is break-even point calculation. So this is the formula that we use. Now, same formula is written in a different way where this thing, selling price minus variable cost, is generally known as contribution per unit. So either you can write it like this, sales price minus variable cost, or you can say this as contribution and then divide fixed cost by contribution. So that is something which I have shown here. So just see. So first I computed my contribution per unit, that is 20 rupees, and then simply fixed cost divided by contribution per unit. Or alternatively, the way we wrote, that is fixed cost divided by selling price minus variable cost. Both are same things. So how much, what is the answer? That at 1750 units, this company will have break even. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now please tell me, if somebody will ask you that in spite of telling me the break-even point in units, please tell me the break-even point in the value. Value means that how much revenue should they generate so that they are able to break even. So can I say that if 17,500 is the break-even units, and if I can multiply this with the selling price, that is 50, that will be my break-even point in value or break-even point in sales revenue.
Yes, sir.
87,000.
Yes. So that will be how much? So break-even point in sales value will be how much? Nothing. It will be just multiply this with the selling price and it will be your 87,500 in the value. That means if this company can do a sale of 87,500 rupees, this company will break even. This company will not incur any losses. Hope it is clear.
Yes.
Yes. So after this, one more example which is given. So now you will be in a position to do it very comfortably. Now can you compute the break even in units and sale? So what will be break even in units? We can say fixed cost divided by sales minus variable cost. So that will be fixed cost is 9,600 divided by selling price is 200 minus variable cost is 100. So it is this one. And what will be it in value? So just multiply this with the selling price, that is 200, and you will get this as a break even point in sales value. Hope it is clear. Hope it is clear.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes. So one last thing which we want to discuss is something related to margin of safety. Achha, now please tell me one thing. If this company, let's take this example, if this company is selling less than 900, 600 units, this one, 9,600 units. So if this company is selling 9,600 units, will it incur profit or loss?
So no profit, no loss. It should be
Less than
960,
at
sir.
9,600, it will be no profit, no
It is a
loss. But if it is selling less than 9,600 units, then will it be profit or loss?
loss.
Loss. Excellent. Right. And if it is selling more than 9,600 units, then
Profit.
profit. So please tell me, where will this company be more comfortable? Will it be more comfortable selling more than 9,600 unit, or will it be comfortable selling less than 9,600 unit?
Of
More
course,
than.
sir, more than
More than.
9,600.
So now let's assume that this company is selling 12,000 units, right? So that means this company can generate profit with a difference of this much. So from 9,600 to 12,000, whatever additional number of units are getting produced, these will give him, this organization profit. So this concept is
Yes.
known as nothing but margin of safety. We call this concept as margin of safety. That means whatever sale you are doing over and above your break-even sale is your margin of safety. So let's say if your break-even sale was 9,600 unit and you were able to sell, let's say 12,000 unit. So what will be your margin of safety? That is 12,000 minus 9,600. So this will be how much? 2,400. So that means these are the 2,400 unit which are going to give you security that you will generate profit. So are you able to understand the concept of margin of safety? So margin of safety is nothing but over and above break even sales, whatever sale you are doing, that is nothing but that is your margin of safety. Is this okay? Now please tell me one thing, if margin of safety is higher or if margin of safety is lower, which one is better for the organization? If margin of safety is higher, right? Because with higher margin, you will have better chance, right? So margin of safety is nothing but whatever sale you are doing minus whatever is your break-even sale. I have example. Let me show you from here the same example. So what was our break-even point in the first example that we discussed? That our break-even point was turning out to 1,750 units. So in actual, this was the break-even unit, and in actual, this company has made a sale of how much? 5,000 unit. So what was the margin of safety between here? So can I say margin of safety here is nothing but actual sale, that is 5,000, minus the break-even sale, that is 17,500. So that means this company is having a margin of safety of how much? 3250 units. Can I say that? Please confirm.
Yes, 3250 units.
Yes, right. So this is how we tend to do margin of safety analysis. Are you clear with margin of safety? Break-even point, margin of safety analysis and all. What is fixed cost? What is variable cost? This all we discussed. Fixed cost, variable cost. These all we have discussed.
Yes,
semi-variable cost. So hope we are clear with this. Now, if you have any question, you can ask. Let me come to the camera so that I can see who is speaking. If you have any question, any query, please ask. I will be happy to answer that. I guess none.
Yeah.
Shinu ma'am, then it's over to you.
We have understood the fact and we need to practice it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So we'll provide you these sheets. You can. Yes.
Questions.
So we will provide you these sheets, and after that, if you feel and if you have any doubt, any question, then you can always write to us, and we'll respond to you.
In fact, you have to work on in your business plan, work on your financials using these terminologies that sir has shared. So that will help you to actually identify how to work on your financials. Thank you so much, Prashant sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks for all your time and sharing it very nicely with all of us. Thank you. Look forward to have you again.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Anytime. And if they need any assistance for their plans also, I'm there to help them out.
Sure. Thank you. Please fill up the feedback and also do the quiz for the day. Thank you.
Bye-bye, ma'am. Bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir.